Hello, everybody. This is Brian Lewis featuring the first episode of The Raw Moment. And today I just want to discuss the true topic of this Drew Brees extension talks. Right now, it seemed as of yesterday that they were going to come to an agreement as early as today. The update is basically simple that it seems to me like Brees and Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, are basically just gonna, wishy-wash their way through contract talks to the media. And yeah, okay, it's a distraction. Yes, it is a distraction. Because you're opening up the season on Sunday, a team that is probably going to finish last in the NFC South, most likely, probably. I don't have any doubts in my mind that the Saints are the worst team in that division right now. And you're talking about a 37-year-old quarterback getting a supposed 4-year extension. A 4-year extension for a 37-year-old quarterback. It's asinine. That's exactly what it is. It's asinine. There have been plenty of bad contracts given out by the Saints in recent years. Jairus Byrd, who they signed from the Buffalo Bills, that was a bad contract. Remember Brandon Browner? That was not the smartest signing in the world either. The Saints basically are right now trying to keep Drew Brees around because without Drew Brees, they're not competitive. They're probably going to go 1-15 without Drew Brees next season, right? If he were a free agent, they're not going to go anywhere. So here's my message to you, Drew Brees. You're not going to hold up a Lombardi trophy in the next 4 years with the way the team's being built, right? I agree. I don't think they're going to win. So why the hell do you want to stay at a place that has no chance to win a Super Bowl? Because I'll tell you why. Because like many players, like the NBA players have gone, where all they care about is making as much money as possible to support the players' union, Drew Brees, this whole ploy is for the players' union of the NFL. Brady took a pay cut and won a Super Bowl. Manning took a small pay cut, very small pay cut. Shouldn't give him enough credit for it. And they won a Super Bowl last year. Granted, he played like crap. So what is this, Drew Brees? You're going to make over $20 million a year? I get it. You're better than Flacco. Yes, I agree. You're better than Sam Bradford. I think almost anybody is. But does that mean that you should hold your team hostage just because you feel like a dollar amount is going to change the value of what you are as a quarterback? No. Winning games is what makes great quarterbacks. Winning playoff games makes great quarterbacks. Because that's what legacies are defined of, Drew Brees. I don't know. If I'm a Saints fan right now, I would feel like they just took a big giant dump on my floor. That's exactly what I feel like. And you know what? The Saints want to continue to put out mediocre product. They can do that. But I don't want any part of it. If I'm a Saints fan, I'd be very disgusted with Drew Brees. In fact, I'd be pissed that they didn't trade him to Minnesota last week for a first-round pick. If you knew you could get a first-round pick for a guy that has basically 1 year left on his contract, are you kidding me? What are you doing, Mickey Loomis? Are you the GM of the Saints? Or are you the GM of Drew Brees? Which sounds like all they care about is Drew Brees. And this comes to a big fundamental problem in the NFL, where the lack of quarterback talent in this league has never been worse. In the 70s, I had a discussion with an old-timer, okay? And the 70s had all these great quarterbacks. You had Pastorini, you had Jim Hart, you had Terry Bradshaw, who was probably the mediocre guy of his day. You had Joe Montana in the 80s. You still had Kenny Stabler in the 70s. You had Ken Anderson. And in the 80s, you had John Elway, Dan Marino, Joe Montana. Danny White was pretty decent. You had Boomer Esiason who won an MVP. It's just like there's so many better quarterbacks in that era than there are now. And never mind the fact that the flag football NFL has made it even easier to play quarterback than any other position in the league. Quarterbacks and receivers have it way too easy in the NFL. Why do you think there are guys that go out and catch 80 passes every year? You look at these pick routes that the Denver Broncos have been running for 5 years with Peyton Manning. It's just crazy. Offense gets too much credit in this league. Because of what? Fantasy football. And that's why Drew Brees is in New Orleans. Because, let's face it, fantasy football has become more of a priority for the NFL than anything else. And for Drew Brees to ask himself to make $20 million a year, when Tom Brady's making 15, Manning made 17 and a half his last year. So why the hell are you going to make a deal that's going to hold the team hostage? A 4-year, $100 million contract. Let's just say probably 60% of that is definitely going to be fully guaranteed. And then the rest of it's incentive. My opinion, if you're not a team that's good enough to win a division, You shouldn't be trying to keep your talent. You should be trying to move it and replace it. The baseball strategy should work for the Saints. You should be able to ship Drew Brees, Jarris Bird, all these other guys, like the way you shipped out Jimmy Graham. Because let's face it, you can do better than that. You're not better than Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay is better than New Orleans right now. Atlanta with Matt Ryan is better than New Orleans right now. Carolina with Cam Newton, they're probably not even going to get much worse, honestly. Their defense might be a tad bit worse since Josh Norman departed. But let's face it, Carolina's in a good position. Atlanta, okay, Atlanta's probably the third team. Atlanta's probably the team that New Orleans is closest with right now. Okay? The Saints aren't going to win the division. The Saints aren't going to make the playoffs. So why the hell are you going to keep Drew Brees? Hasn't anyone learned from the Jay Cutler fiasco in Chicago? Seriously? Has anybody?